Hola amigos, ¿qué tal? Stuart here from Spain Speaks with the Spain News Update, and it's good news for football and sports fans in Spain as crowds are set to return to stadiums in the near future. But more about that in just a moment. Firstly, a big thanks to all of the people that left comments on the last video. Lots of comments, lots of debate happening there as usual. Thanks to people that supported the channel through a donation. You can see your names here. Thanks to people that bought merchandise, and a big thanks to my patrons on Patreon for your support. Now I'm back today after a few days off, and it is good to be back in front of the camera. Now let's get into the news, and as I said, good news for sports fans in Spain as they will again be able to attend stadiums to watch their favourite teams. As we can see here, the Health Ministry agrees on the return of fans to stadiums between 30% and 40% of capacity. The Ministry of Health and the autonomous communities have finalised an agreement that will set limitations on the return of fans to stadiums, which will be limited to 40% of outdoor capacity and 30% of indoor capacity. The Interterritorial Council meeting held on Wednesday afternoon set a common criteria on the return of the public to sporting events. As the Minister of Health, Catalina Darias, has just clarified at a press conference, the agreements represents a roadmap for achieving normality. So there we go, grounds and stadiums around the country will be able to have a 40% capacity outdoors and indoor stadiums 30%. And as the Health Minister said, it's a roadmap for achieving normality. I'm not sure when crowds were last allowed to attend a La Liga game in Spain, for example. I think it was back in March or February of 2020. So it's been a long time between drinks as far as crowds at sporting venues in Spain are concerned. Now, there's been some good news as far as unemployment is concerned in Spain. The total amount of unemployed people in July was reduced by some 200,000, and apparently now there's a record number of women in active employment in Spain. But unfortunately, a lot of the jobs are temporary and with low wages. In the last 2 months, the number of women in employment or on ERTE, furlough, has exceeded 9 million, a level not seen since before the pandemic at the end of 2019. This trend, experts point out, could continue if the labour market is not shaken by new restrictions. Female Social Security enrolment reached a record high of 9,076,939 in June. Last month it fell slightly, by around 3,000, according to data published on Tuesday by the Ministry of Social Security. So the job market in Spain finally starting to rebound, and a record number of women in the Social Security system. But unfortunately not very stable employment and with low salaries. Now, one sector in Spain that seems to be creating a lot of employment recently is the supermarket sector, and German supermarket chain Lidl has new job offers in different supermarkets in Spain with salaries of up to 1,300 euros. Company Lidl publishes new job offers to fill vacancies in different supermarkets in Spain. The chain is expanding its job opportunities with a list of 49 vacancies with salaries of up to 1,300 euros, an opportunity for the nearly 3.5 million unemployed in the country. Lidl's job offers are distributed throughout the Balearic Islands, Catalonia, Murcia, Valencia, Castile and Leon, and Asturias. To apply for these new jobs, you will have to access the Lidl website, register for the offer you are interested in, and attach your CV. So the Lidl supermarket chain going from strength to strength in Spain, 49 jobs on offer around the country, and salaries of up to 1,300 euros. So you'd better hurry and get your CV in quickly if you want to get one of those jobs. Now, anybody who's lived and worked in Spain will know that when it comes to taxes, the government permanently has a hand in your pocket. And in a recent survey, it's been shown that Spaniards believe that they pay a lot of taxes, but not enough money is spent on healthcare. Spaniards believe that they pay a lot of taxes, but that few resources are devoted to healthcare. This is according to the Barometer on Public Opinion and Fiscal Policy published on Wednesday by the Sociological Research Centre, CIS. According to the published data, 46% of Spaniards believe they pay a lot in taxes. However, 70% of those surveyed believe that the amount of resources allocated to healthcare is very little. Spaniards are also of the opinion that they pay too much in taxes and that this is not reflected in public services. So there we go. According to that survey, the majority of Spaniards believe that they pay too much tax and they don't know where the money is spent. And it's good to see that I'm not the only person in the country that has trouble understanding where politicians spend our money. Now, high energy prices are again making headlines, and Spain has urged the EU to act on soaring energy prices. Spain has called on the EU to back measures to limit surging electricity prices as controversy deepens over the cost to ordinary citizens of the bloc's strategy to reduce carbon emissions. In an interview with the Financial Times, Teresa Rivera, Spain's Deputy Prime Minister for the Environment, suggested that high prices and charges could provoke a backlash against carbon-cutting initiatives initiatives, with Spain in the eye of the hurricane. She added that the EU rules on pricing appeared to better suit countries such as Germany and Poland, which need investment to phase out their large coal industries. So Spain finally complaining that they're getting a raw deal when it comes to energy prices in the EU. And let's see if the European Union listens. Now some news on the health situation in Spain, and it's bad news for the anti-vaxxers, as Spain's science minister reveals that we're going to have to get vaccinated many more times against COVID. The Minister of Science and Innovation, Diana Morant, has acknowledged that the coronavirus is here to stay. We're going to have to be vaccinated many more times. I'm not talking about a third dose at this stage. I'm talking about next year, the year after. COVID is not going to abandon us. There are going to be other vaccination phases that we are going to have to undergo, not only in Spain, Morant stressed in an interview on La Sexta. The minister also admitted that there is still a lot of vaccine to be inoculated worldwide. So there we go. Finally, a minister in Spain has put it out there that the coronavirus is going to be here to stay, and coronavirus vaccinations are going to be a yearly event. Now let's have a look at a summary of the health situation in Spain. We can see that the accumulated incidence rate for the last 14 days is now sitting at 633. There are currently 10,184 COVID patients in hospitals around the country, and there are still 1,904 COVID patients, unfortunately, in ICU. We'll have a look at Spain's new COVID-19 hotspot, the Balearic Islands, and we can see that their accumulated incidence rate is now at 904, and cases there are up 43% on previous data. When it comes to the vaccination plan, we can see that 58.61% of the population have completed vaccination and 68.81% have received at least one dose. Now, there was some positive news for Spain's tourism industry yesterday, and it was that fully vaccinated Britons returning from France and Spain will not need to quarantine. Millions of Britons have been given the green light to travel to Europe's holiday hotspots, avoiding quarantine on return from France and Spain, where concerns have been raised about COVID variants. Ministers announced on Wednesday that fully vaccinated holidaymakers returning from France would no longer need to quarantine, and ditched plans for a watch list of amber countries such as Spain. The move is likely to partially revive the struggling tourism sector, but will raise questions about whether the government is being complacent about the spread of the beta variant. So Benidorm and Magaluf, get ready, the Britons are returning. Now let's have a look at some of the comments from previous videos. One here from Susan, just reading that regional festivals are starting to cancel. Aragon through the 30th of September 2021. Yes, Susan, thanks for the comment. I imagine that a lot of town festivals or regional festivals around the country have been cancelled due to the high incidence rates of COVID-19. I think there are plans in some areas to have their local festivals. For example, where I live in Madrid, I think they're planning in September to hold the local town festivals. But many places think that it's just too risky to have a lot of people gathering in the same place at the same time. I know that where I am here in Portugal, the local town festival that was due to take place last weekend was cancelled. But as we saw earlier in the news, crowds are going to be able to attend football games this year. So maybe some towns and cities will decide to hold their festivals later in the year, but with crowd limitations. One here from Tony. Hello, Stu. I don't know whether you've been to the East Coast this year, but I live 15 minutes from the sea, south of Alicante, and I'm very surprised at the condition of the sea. It's green, not blue. I've been to different beaches from Santa Pola to Cartagena, and there is no blue sea to be seen. It's green algae in the water, which could be a product of the phosphates being used to force grow vegetables. When irrigated, this then bleeds into the sea at Guardamar and the Mar Menor. This is the first time I've noticed it since the 2019 floods. Yeah, Tony, thanks for the comment. I did travel to the East Coast earlier in the year. I went to Benidorm in June, but I didn't notice anything strange with the colour of the seawater. I have read over the years that places like the Mar Menor have a problem because of what you mentioned there, and the Murcia region is of course famous for its farming produce. But I know there's a few people that watch these videos in that part of Spain, so if you know the reasons why the sea is turning green there, let us know in the comment section below. One here from John. Hi Stuart, I'm a Canadian living on the Costa Blanca in San Fulgencio. I would suggest that most Canadians would appreciate the weather here in the winter. My problem is with the heat in the summer. I solved this problem by going to Canada to spend a couple of months on my sailboat, which is berthed in Vancouver. I am there right now and I am watching your channel each day to try to stay current on Spanish things. Thank you for the information. Yeah, John, thanks for the comment, and good to see that you are enjoying the content there in Vancouver, Canada. We had a comment last week, or maybe the week before, from a couple of people in Canada looking for a nice place on mainland Spain to spend the winter. Alicante was one of the places that popped up, as was Malaga. And I imagine that there are lots of places along the Mediterranean coast that are pleasant in the winter months. However, as you mentioned there, the summers in some parts of Spain can be unbearable and people feel that they need to escape. As you said, you returned to Canada, and that's the reason that I come to Portugal. So a word of advice for people planning to move to Spain: if you don't like hot, humid summers, perhaps the Mediterranean is not the place for you. One here from Michael: the crazy thing about all these air and sea travel restrictions and the associated hassle and costs is that you can drive a car from one end of the Schengen Europe to another without any papers. Don't get me wrong, I'm more than happy with that. Yeah, Michael, thanks for the comment, and that is a characteristic of the Schengen part of Europe. There are no land borders. I remember some countries did put up a land border again when the pandemic situation was out of control last year and earlier this year. For example, Spain and Portugal, you couldn't drive freely across the border, but now there are no restrictions. And last night I was watching Portuguese TV and they were talking about the tourist industry here, and one expert said that Spanish tourists are considered domestic tourists here in Portugal. So a bit of a hassle getting in and out of the EU from non-EU countries, especially when it comes to flying. But once inside the European Union and the Schengen area, very, very easy to get around, and it's definitely, as you say, an advantage. And finally, one here from Maria: muchas gracias, disfruta las vacaciones, looking forward to your return, hasta pronto. Yeah, Maria, thanks for the comment, and as you can see, I am back, and I did enjoy a few days off. It was good being able to switch off from Spanish politics, switch off from the health situation, and I enjoyed not having to go through the newspapers on a daily basis. However, all good things must come to an end, and the videos are back. On that note, I'll wrap the video up. Questions and comments, please leave them in the section below. Debate the situation out as you normally do. Give the video a thumbs up if you liked it, thumbs down if you didn't. I'll see you in the next one. Hasta luego.